A question I get asked quite a lot, especially by people who are just finding their feet in Blender. They can do a bit of modeling and, maybe 8, 10, 12 weeks in. And the question is, how do they bake multiple materials onto one UV map? So I have a very simple scene here. It's three objects, this sphere, and this cube. Okay, they've all been unwrapped, so if I go into edit mode with this, you can see the unwrap for this sphere here, and same with this sphere here, and similarly same with the cube. Nice cube unwrap there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to join these into one object, so then we really only want one map and bake these three materials onto it. So I'm going to select all three objects, and let me just put some screencast keys on down here. I select all three objects and I'm going to join with Control J. Okay, so now if we edit them, we can see we've got everything down here on the UV map. Let me just come here. If I come to Island Select, let me turn background geometry off. Not the background, the sync geometry. Come to Island Select, so I could select this island, which is one of the spheres. You can see the other sphere in white there. And let me try and select the cube one here. So we've got all three maps overlaid. So the first thing we need to do is to make sure that these maps aren't overlapping. And we'll do that quite simply because they've already been unwrapped and everything. Do that quite simply with Pack Islands. That didn't work because it left the two overlapping there. Let me just try something here. Come into object mode, apply scale, rotation and scale. Come back into edit mode and I'll select all again. And Pack Islands. That's much better. Okay, so what we got here is we got the three components in the one texture space, which is kind of like this sphere, and this cube. Okay. Right, so now we want to bake a single texture that'll fit all three of these. So the way we can do that is if we come across the materials tab, okay, we've got the three materials listed on this single object. So let's go to our node editor here, and to bake a texture we need to create a new texture. So let me just put new and I'll call it multi-bake. Okay, I don't want alpha on it, and we'll press OK. So we've got this new texture to bake onto. So we need to add that texture to our material here. Shift A, add a texture, an image texture, and we'll call it the multi-bake, which is there. Okay, so that's added to the blue material, but we need to add this same texture to each of the other materials so they all bake together onto the one texture. So what I'm going to do is I've got this texture selected. I'm going to Control C to copy it. I'm going to come across to my white material here and just Control V to paste it. I'm going to come across to my red material and do the same again, Control V to paste it. So we've got this same texture, the multi-bake, active on all three materials, and make sure it is active, that it is highlighted. We'll just double check that. Same on material number 1 and same on material number 2. Okay, so now we've got all of these. We've got this image, this new image in all of these materials. We can go ahead and bake. So I'm just going to do a quick bake here. No valid or selected objects. Well, combined, selected to active. I don't want the selected to active on. That's from an earlier project. That's why I got the error message. Okay, now if I go to bake, it should bake all three materials onto this texture. It's baking pretty fast here, so I'll keep the video running. It's only on very few samples. I'd imagine it's only on the defaults. Well, it's only on 10. Very few samples. But it'll give us an idea. So while this is baking, we'll just recap. Once we have 3 materials or 5 or anything up to 8 materials on one object, we need to add the same image texture that we're baking to into each material node group. Okay, so that's saved, and you can see here now that we do indeed have all 3 materials baked onto the one texture, the blue, the white, and the red. Okay, let's come and put this into a texture view, and you can see that this texture has applied perfectly across the 3 materials.